Verse 1. Verse 1. It's Revelation 19. After these things, I heard what sounded like the roar. Okay. It's chapter 18. 18. Chapter 18. After this I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. It's Apocalypse revealed by Swedenborg, chapter 18, verse 1. And after these things I saw signifies the manifestation concerning the destruction and condemnation. Hello?
What's up?
I'm reading the book here. You can see on the stream. This
Which book?
It's
let me see.
It's Apocalypse revealed.
Okay, give me the synopsis. Give me the synopsis of the book.
It's about spiritual meaning of the Bible, of the book of Revelation of the Bible.
Oh, good fucking lord. Like, every fucking conversation in, like, this fucking politics channel I join is about the fucking Bible, or, like, the Torah, or, like, fucking Quran. Okay, so this one is about the Bible. Fine. Which chapter of the Bible are we talking about? Let's go.
18, you can see on the stream. It's chapter
Okay.
18, verse 1.
Tell me about
I read this book, verse 1, and if you want to read, you can read next verse in your turn, and we can see the point of view of Swedenborg, Emmanuel Swedenborg, about this verse. And we can say, do we agree with his opinion, or don't we agree, and why don't we agree, and why do we agree, like this. Verse 1. And after these things I saw signifies the manifestation concerning the destruction and the condemnation of those who were in the Roman Catholic religious persuasion and exercised authority over the holy things of the church and heaven with the purpose of having dominion over all and of possessing all the goods of others. These things are here signified by after these things I saw, because they are treated of in this chapter. The dogmas of that religious persuasion are prefixed to this work, that they who are in enlightenment from the Lord may see that they regard nothing else than dominion over the souls of men, to the end that they may be worshipped as gods, and may alone possess the goods of the whole world. And because that was their end, and not at all the salvation of souls, they could not take their dogmas from any other source than from hell. For they could not from heaven, that is, from the Lord, but from themselves, because they transferred all things of the Lord to themselves.
Guys, I just want to let you all know that Celts are superior to whatever ethnicity you are, and that we're better at everything. Intellectually and physically, we are superior. That's all I have to say.
Sorry, So what do you mean? Sorry, I am reading the book here. You can see on the stream, but what do you mean by saying that? I'm talking
That's what I
about this
mean.
book I read. This is the topic of this channel today because I am reading the book here, and we can discuss this book. But you can see on the stream this book.
Emmanuel, where
Yeah,
are you from?
I don't say that
Why?
because I don't represent myself. I represent this book and the writer of
What
this
is the
book.
book? What is the book?
It's Apocalypse Revealed by Emmanuel Swedenborg, chapter 18. It's about spiritual meaning of the book of Revelation of the Bible. And
Interesting.
it's if you're familiar with the book of Revelation, you can understand maybe what Swedenborg is written about.
But if I'm right, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Emmanuel Swedenborg was like a Protestant, no?
He didn't belong to any denomination, and
Okay.
he wrote only about spiritual meaning of the Bible. He didn't write about literal meaning of the Bible, but only about
Oh,
spiritual
okay.
meaning. And his doctrine called the
Okay.
New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem is the doctrine about spiritual meaning of the Bible.
Hmm.
It's about the word, because we should understand that the God is the word. And I read this verse, and you can see, and if you want to read, you can read next verse in your turn. We read here verse by verse. And, okay? Mhm. And because that was their end, and not at all the salvation of souls, they could not take their dogmas from any other source than from hell. For they could not from heaven, that is, from the Lord, but from themselves, because they transferred all things of the Lord to themselves. What is more detestable than to divide the body and blood of the Lord, of the bread and wine, or the bread and wine in the Holy Supper, manifestly against its institution, and this by fictions and solely for the sake of their daily and nightly sacrifices of the mass, by which they make worldly gains. What is more detestable than to worship dead men with divine invocation, and to fall down on the knees to the images, and to kiss them in a holy manner, yea, the bones and remains of their dead bodies, and thus to lead away the people from divine worship, and to lead them into profane worship, and this also for the sake of gains. What is more detestable than to make divine worship on the Lord's day and turn festivals to consist in masses not understood, and thus in externals which are and its affection without internals which are of the soul and its affections, and to ascribe to the former all sanctity, and thus to hold all in ignorance and blind faith, that they may have dominion and make gain. What is more detestable? What is more detestable than to transfer all things to have the Lord's authority to themselves, which is nothing else than to draw down the Lord from his throne and to put themselves from it upon it? What is more detestable than to take away the word, which is the divine truth itself, from the laity and the common people, and to issue edicts, to issue edicts and dogmas, edicts,
Edicts.
edicts, edicts.
Edicts.
Edicts. To issue edicts and dogmas in its place, in which there is scarcely one genuine truth of the word. These are the things which are treated of in this chapter of Revelation. I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was lightened by his glory, signifies a strong influx of the Lord out of heaven by the divine truth, from which his church was in heavenly light. By an angel, the Lord is signified. By an angel coming down out of heaven is signified the Lord's influx out of heaven. By having great authority is signified throne influx. By having great authority. Like in KJV, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great authority. Okay, and NIV version, and after this I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority. He had great authority. That's what it means, having great authority. By having great authority is signified strong influx. By the earth was lightened by his glory is signified the church in heavenly light from the Lord by divine truth. That by an angel and by angels in the word, the Lord is meant, may be seen. By coming down is signified to flow in, because it is said of the Lord that the church is signified by the earth, that glory is said of the divine truth and signifies it. It is said divine truth in heavenly light, because the divine truth proceeding from the Lord is the light of heaven, which enlightens the angels and makes their wisdom. The influx of the Lord by divine truth is now spoken of, and the enlightenment of the church by it, because by that influx, those that are in falsities are separated from those who are in truth, and likewise, falsities from the light of truth appears as they really are. Verse 2. Maybe any comments? Verse 2. And he cried out mightily with a great voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, signifies that he made it known that by the Lord's divine power, all who have been in that religious persuasion, and at the same time in the love of dominion from it, are destroyed in the spiritual world, and are cast into many hells. That this is signified by these words may be evident from the small work on the Last Judgment and the destruction of Babylon, published at London in the year 1758, where its destruction is described, from which it may be seen that those of that religious persuasion who from the heat of the love of self have exercised dominion over the holy divine things of the Lord, which are those of heaven and the church, and who have been mere adulterers, were destroyed and cast into hell. But that those of the same religious persuasion who had lived according to the precepts of the Decalogue, shunning evils as sins, and at the same time looked to the Lord, were saved, may be seen in the 10 continuation concerning the Last Judgment, and concerning the spiritual world, to which there is no need to add more. The like is said of Babel in Isaiah. A lion cried upon the watch towers and said, Babel is fallen, and all the graven images of your gods hath he broken on the earth. Isaiah 21:8-9. Similar ones are collected from that religious persuasion since the last judgment, and from time to time are sent to the like. And is become the habitation of demons, and is become the habitation of demons, signifies that their hells are the hells of the lusts of dominion from the heat of the love of self, and of the lust of profaning the truth of heaven from the spirit furious zeal of that love. Just furious like false.
Spurious.
Spurious zeal of that love. By demons the lusts of evils are signified, and also the lust of falsifying truth. But demons like lusts are of many kinds. But demons like lusts are of many kinds, but the worst are those who are lusts of having dominion over the holy things of the church, and over heaven from the heat of the love of self. And because this domineering disposition is seated in their hearts, they are also lusts of profaning the truth of heaven from the spurious zeal of that love. And as these, when they become demons, which takes place after death, know that the Lord alone rules over heaven and earth, they become hatreds against him, till at length hatreds like become hatreds like those who hate. They become hatreds against him, till at length, as after the lapse of an age. After the lapse, what is lapse?
Lapse.
Like mistake. After the lapse of an age, they cannot endure to hear him named. It is manifest from this that by Babylon has become a habitation of demons. It signifies that their hells are the hells of the lusts of having dominion from the heat of the love of self, and the lust of profaning the truth of heaven from the spurious zeal of that love. It is not known in the world that all after death become affections of the ruling love in themselves. Those become good affections who have looked to the Lord and to heaven, and at the same time having shunned evils as sins. But those become evil affections, which are lusts who have looked only to themselves and to the world, and have shunned evils not as sins, but only as hurtful to one's reputation and honor. Those affections appear to the life and are perceived in the spiritual world, but in the natural world, only the thoughts from the affections. Hence it is that man does not know that hell is in the affections of the love of evil, and heaven in the affections of the love of good. That man does not know, and that he does not perceive it, is because the lusts of the love of evil derive from heredity, that they are delightful in the will, and thence are pleasant in the understanding, and the man does not reflect upon that which is delightful and pleasant, because it leads his mind, animus,
Animus.
like
Prejudice.
prejudice. Animus, his mind, animus alone as the current of a swift river carries a vessel. Wherefore they who have immersed themselves in those delights and pleasures cannot come to the delights and pleasures of the affections of the love of good and truth any otherwise than as those who urge the oars,
Ease.
is maybe oars, okay, oars against the current of the swift river with the strong power of the arms. But it is otherwise with those who have not immersed themselves deeply. And the hold of every unclean spirit and the hold of every unclean and hateful bird signifies that the evils of the will and thence of the deed, and the falsities of thought and thence of design of those who are in those hells are diabolical, because they are turned away from the Lord to themselves. By a hold is signified hell, because there they are imprisoned. By spirit is signified everything that is of the affection of the will and thence of the deed. And by bird is signified everything that is of the thought or the understanding and thence of the design. Therefore by unclean spirit and unclean bird are signified all the evils which are of the will and thence of the deed, and all the falsities which are of the thought and thence of the design. And because these are with them in the hells, it is therefore signified that they are diabolical. And because they are turned away from the Lord to themselves, it is also called a hateful bird. Babel is described by similar things in the prophets. Thus in Isaiah, Babel shall be as God's overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall not be inhabited to eternity, so that the Arab shall not tarry there. Shall not tarry.
Tarry.
Tarry, like dwell. Tarry. Shall not tarry there. The Ziyim shall lie down there. That Ziyim. I don't know. The Ziyim shall lie down there, and their houses shall be filled with ochim. And ochim.
Oakum.
Ochim, and the daughters of the all shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. The Ziyim also shall answer in her palaces, and the dragons in her palaces of luxuries. Isaiah 13:19-22. In the same, I will cut off from Babel the name and remnant. I will make her an inheritance for the bittern. Isaiah 14:21-23. And in Jeremiah, in Babel shall dwell the Zim and Ijim, and daughters of the wall, according to God's overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and its villages. No son of man shall dwell there. Jeremiah 50:39-40. It is manifest from these passages that by the hold of every unclean spirit and of every unclean and hateful bird is signified that the evils of the will and thence of the deed, and the falsities of the thought and thence of the design of those who are in those hells are diabolical, because they are turned away from the Lord to themselves. It is manifest from the word that birds signify such things as are of the understanding and thought, and thence of design, in each sense both evil and good. In the evil sense, they are mentioned in these passages. It's about birds, the meaning of birds. In the midst of the week, I will make the sacrifice to cease at length upon the bird of abominations shall be desolation. Unto the consummation it shall drop upon the devastation. Daniel 9:27. The cormorant. Is this?
Cormorant.
Cormorant is a bird. Cormorant. The cormorant and the bittern. Bittern is like a bird too.
Bittern.
Yeah, bittern. The cormorant and the bittern shall possess the land. The screech owl and the raven shall dwell in it. Isaiah 34:11. Nothing else but infernal falsities are signified by the ochim, the zim. It's like maybe it's birds like this. If you see the picture, I think it's a bird. It's a bird. Ochim. I don't know. No, it's not like bird. Ochim, a species of animal classed with the wild beasts of the desert and described as hunting ruins. Okay. Signified Ochim and nothing else but infernal falsities are signified by Ochim and Zim, the daughters of the owl and the dragons. If you see Zim, picture, you can see picture. Doesn't have picture. Okay. The daughters of the owl and the dragons in the passages adduced above, also by the birds which came down from the carcasses which Abram drew away. Genesis 15:11. By the birds to which their carcasses should be given for food. Jeremiah 7:33, 15:3, 16:4, 19:7, 34:20. Ezekiel 29:5, Psalms 79:1-2. Also by the birds which devour that which was sowed. Matthew 13:3-4. In the good sense in these passages, let the creeping thing and the bird praise the name of Jehovah. Psalms 148:10. I will make a covenant for them in the day with the bird of the heavens and the creeping thing of the earth. Hosea 2:18. Ask the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the birds of heaven, and they shall declare unto thee, who from all these hath not known that the hand of Jehovah doth it. Job 12:7-9. I saw when, behold, there was no man. Every bird of the heavens flew away. Jeremiah 4:25. From the bird of the heavens even to the beast they are fled, because I will make Jerusalem heaps, the habitation of dragons. Jeremiah 9:10-11. 12:9. There is no truth, no mercy, no knowledge of God. Therefore the land Therefore the land shall mourn as to the beast of the field and as to the bird of the heavens. Hosea 4:1-3. I am God, that calls the bird from the east, the man of my counsel, out of a land afar off, like far,
Afar.
a land afar off. Isaiah 46:9-11. Assyria was a cedar in Lebanon. All the birds of the heavens nested in its branches, and in its shadow dwelt all great nations. Ezekiel 31:3-6. Things similar to this are said of Ashur as a cedar elsewhere, as Ezekiel 17:23, Daniel 4:10, 14, 20, 21, Matthew 13:31, 32, Mark 4:32, Luke 13:19. Say to the bird of every wing, and to every beast of the field, come to the great sacrifice upon the mountains of Israel. So will I give my glory among the nations. Ezekiel 39:17, 21, Revelation 19:17, besides other places as Isaiah 18:1, 6, Ezekiel 38:20, Hosea 9:11, 11:9, 11. Zephaniah 1:3, Psalms 8:6, 50, 11, 104, 10, 12. That birds signify the things which are of the understanding, and thence of thought and design is clearly manifest from the birds in the spiritual world, where there appear also birds of every genus and every species. Genus, like biological.
Genus.
Genus, like type, sort. Genus. And every species. In heaven, most beautiful ones, bird of paradise, turtle doves, and doves. In hell, dragons, screech owls, honored owls, and other similar ones, all of which are representations to the life of thoughts from good affections in heaven and of thoughts from evil affections in hell. Any comments? Verse 3. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the anger of her whoredom, and the kings of the earth committed whoredom with her. Signifies that they have put forth wicked dogmas, which are adulterations and profanations of the good and truth of the word, and have imbued,
Imbued.
like paint, inspire, and have imbued with them all that have been born and educated in their kingdoms under their domination. That this is signified by these words may be evident from the explanations above. Where are like things to which there is no need of adding more. Only the similar things are said of Babel in Jeremiah. A cup of gold is Babel in the hand of Jehovah, making the whole earth drunken. The nations have drunk of her wine, therefore they are insane. Jeremiah 51:7. Also let Babel be a hissing when they have grown warm. I will make their banquets, and I will make them drunken, that they may exult, and may sleep the sleep of an age, and not awake. Exalt, they may exult. It's like about rejoice, exalt. By the wine, Jeremiah 51:37-39. By the wine which they drink, and by which they are made drunk, the dogmas are signified. And how wicked these are may be seen above. Among them also is this wicked one, that the works which they do according to their doctrinals, they make merits by transcribing into them.
Transcribing.
Transcribing, like write down, transcribing into them, and thus into themselves. The Lord's merit and justice, when yet all of charity and all of faith, or all good and truth, are from the Lord. And what is from the Lord remains the Lord's with the recipients. For what is from the Lord is divine, which can never become man's own. The divine can be with a man, but not in his proprium. For man's proprium is nothing but evil. Proprium is like
Proprium.
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 Proprium is like maybe self. Proprium. Proprium doesn't have this word. Proprium. Maybe you can see it in Google. Proprium. The meaning is property. Property. The meaning of proprium is property, attribute especially. An attribute belonging inseparably to every member of a species. Proprium is nothing but evil, wherefore he who attributes to himself what is divine as his own not only defiles it, but also profanes it. The divine from the Lord is exquisitely separated from the man's proprium and is elevated above it. Exquisitely.
Exquisitely.
Exquisitely, like delightfully. Exquisitely separated from man's proprium and is elevated above it. And is never immersed in it. But because they have transferred to themselves all the divine of the Lord, and thus have appropriated it to themselves, it flows like bituminous water.
Bituminous.
Bituminous water when it rains from a spring which is bitumen. It is similar with that dogma that justification is real sanctification, and that their saints are holy in themselves, when yet the Lord alone is holy. Revelation 15:4. More may be seen concerning merit in the work concerning the New Jerusalem and its heavenly doctrine. Mhm. The Lord alone is holy. Revelation 15:4. I think we should see that. Revelation 15:4. Revelation 15:4. Who will not fear you, O Lord, and bring glory to your name? For you alone are holy. For you alone are holy. But I think if every one of us who is born from God, he is holy too. He's holy too. He or she. Just like we are the same as God if we are born from Him. But they mean that they are holy because of their title, like saints, that their saints are holy in themselves. Yeah, because we are not holy in themselves, because the Lord alone is holy, and if you are born again, that it means that that's not we that live, but God lives in us, because we live His life, because we are dead for ourselves, and Jesus lives in us. That because we live His life, we don't live our own life, but we live His life. It means Jesus Christ lives in us, and if Jesus Christ is holy, it means that we are holy because of Him, because we are born from Him, and we became one in Him, and He is in us, and we are in Him. It means that we became holy, and we are in heaven. More may be seen concerning marriage in the work concerning the New Jerusalem and its heavenly doctrine, published at London in the year 1758. And the merchants of the earth have become rich from the abundance of her luxuries. Signifies the great and less in rank in that hierarchy, who through dominion over holy things strive for divine majesty and super regal glory. Super regal.
Super regal.
And super regal glory, and continually aim to establish them firmly by the multiplication of monasteries and of possession under them. Monasteries. The multiplication of monasteries and of possessions under them, and by the treasures which without end they gather together and accumulate from the world, and thus procure for themselves corporeal and natural delights and pleasures from the celestial and spiritual dominion attributed to themselves. No others can be meant by the merchants of Babylon than the greater and the lesser in rank in the ecclesiastical hierarchy. Because at verse 23 of this chapter, it is said that they are the great ones of the earth, and by abundance of her luxuries by which they have become rich. Nothing else can be meant than the dogmas by which, as means, they procure for themselves dominion over the souls of men, and thus also over their possessions. Possessions and wealth, that they gather these together without end, and distant their treasures with them is known. Distant. Distant. Distant like
Widen.
widen. Distant their treasures with them is known. And also that they make traffic of the holy things of the church, as that by offerings and gifts made to the monasteries and their saints and images, and by various masses, indulgences. Indulgences is like it's like
Connivance.
Connivance, maybe, by various masses, indulgences, and dispensations.
Dispensations.
Like distribution. Dispensations. They sell salvation, that is heaven. Who cannot see that if the papal dominion had not been broken at the time of the Reformation, the time of Reformation, and once again, who cannot see that if the papal dominion had not been broken at the time of the Reformation, they would have scrapped together the possessions and wealth of all the kingdoms in the whole of Europe, and then that they would have, because I think in this sense, like Roman Catholic Church received the spirit of the Rome, that because he writes, who cannot see that if the papal dominion had not been broken at the time of the Reformation, they would have scrapped together the possessions and wealth of all the kingdoms in the whole of Europe, and then that they would have become the sole lords and all the rest slaves. Have they not extraordinary opulence? What is that?
Opulence.
Opulence, like riches, splendor. Extraordinarily opulence from former ages, when they had authority over emperors and kings, whom, if they were not obedient, they could excommunicate and dethrone. Dethrone. It's about throne.
Dethrone.
Dethrone. And have they not still an annual incomes? Annual. Annual, like yearly. Still annual incomes, which are immense, and great treasures full of gold, silver, and precious stones. Like barbarous dominion.
Barbarous.
barbarous. Barbarous. Like barbarous, the meaning is set it still in the minds, animus of every many of them. Animus, like mind.
Animus.
Animus. Prejudice.
Prejudice.
Prejudice. The mind's animus, prejudice of very many of them, and it is restrained solely through the fear of its loss, if it is extended beyond bounds. But of what use are such great revenues, treasures, and possessions, except that they may delight and take pride in them, and confirm their domination? 2. Revenues.
Revenues.
Revenues, like income. And confirm them domination to eternity. From this it is evident what is here signified by the merchants of the earth, who have become rich from the abundance of the luxuries of Babylon. They are called merchants also in Isaiah. The inhabitations of Babel have become as stubble. The fire hath burned them up. They shall not deliver their soul from the hand of the flame. Such are thy merchants from thy youth. Stubble.
Stubble.
Stubble. Like straw. A stubble. Isaiah 47, 14, 15. By trafficking and trading is signified in the word to procure for themselves spiritual riches, which are the knowledges of truth and good, and in the opposite sense, the knowledges of falsity and evil, and to gain the world by the latter, and to gain heaven by the former. Wherefore the Lord compared the kingdom of the heavens to a merchantman seeking beautiful pearls. Matthew 13, 45, 46. And the men of the church, 2 servants to whom the talents were given, with which they should trade and make gain. Matthew 25, 14, 20. And to whom 10 pounds were given, with which they should in like manner trade and make gain. Luke 19, 12, 26. And because the church as to the knowledges of truth and good is signified by Tyre, therefore it treats of her traffic and gain in the whole of chapter 27 of Ezekiel. And it is said of her, in thy wisdom and in thy intelligence thou hast made for thyself gold and silver in thy treasures, and by the multitude of wisdom in thy traffic hast thou multiplied for thyself wealth. Ezekiel 28, 4, 5, and elsewhere. Tyre is devastated, whose merchants were princes, and her traders the honorable of the earth. Isaiah 23, 1, 8. And the church perverted with the Jews in the land of Canaan is called the land of trading. Ezekiel 16, 3, 29, 21, 30, 29, 14, 17, 4, 28, 18. Verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye may become not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Signifies exhortation from the Lord to all, as well those who are in that religious persuasion, as those who are not in it, to guard themselves from conjunction with it. by acknowledgement and affection, lest as to their souls they should be conjoined with its abominations and should perish. By another voice from heaven saying a signified exhortation from the Lord to all, as well those who are in that religious persuasion as those who are not in it, because it follows, "Come out of her, my people," that is, all who approach the Lord. This exhortation is from the Lord, because the voice was from heaven. But that ye become not partakers of her sins is signified that they should beware, lest as to their souls they should be conjoined with its abominations, and as conjunction is effected by acknowledgement and affection, this also is signified. Their sins are abominations because they are so called in the preceding chapter, Revelation 17:4. By that ye receive not of your plagues is signified lest they perish, for by plagues evils and falsities are signified, and at the same time destruction by them. These are signified by the plagues above and elsewhere. Similar things are said of Babel in the word in these passages. Go ye out of the midst of Babel, O my people, deliver every one his soul from the wrath of the anger of Jehovah, lest your heart become soft, and ye fear for the report. Jeremiah 51, 45, 46. Flee from the midst of Babel, and deliver every one his soul, lest ye be cut off from her iniquity. Jeremiah 51, 6. Forsake Babel, and let us go every one into his own land, for her judgment hath reached to the heavens, and hath lifted itself up even to the clouds. Jeremiah 51, 9. Go ye out of Babel, flee from the Chaldeans, with the voice of singing. Declare this and make it to be heard. Utter it even to the extremity of the earth. It is extremity. It's like
Extremity.
extremity, like and H. Extremity of the earth, say ye, Jehovah redeems. Isaiah 48, 20, 21, Jeremiah 58. Maybe any comments before we read next verse? Maybe someone wants to read next verse, 5? For her sins have reached even unto heaven, and God hath remembered her injustices. Signifies that their evils and falsities infest the heavens, and that the Lord will protect these from violence thence. By her sins have reached to the heavens is signified that their evils and falsities infest the angels of heaven. By God hath remembered her injustices. It's interesting, injustices. Verse 5. For her sins have reached even unto heaven, and God hath remembered her injustices. And if you see NIV version, verse 5, is it about injustices? For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes, like crimes. And KJV, iniquities. Iniquities, crimes, and injustices. and God hath remembered her injustices, signifies that their evils and falsities infest the heavens, and that the Lord will protect these from violence thence. By her sins have reached to the heavens is signified that their evils and falsities infest the angels of heaven. By God hath remembered her injustices, is signified that the Lord will protect the heavens from violence thence. This is signified by these words because all things of the heavens are goods and truths, and all things in the hells are evils and falsities. And thence the heavens and the hells are altogether separated and in an inverted position like the antipodes. Antipodes, how to pronounce? Antipodes.
Antipodes.
Antipodes. Antipodes.
Antipodes.
Antipode. Antipodes. Antipodes. Therefore evils and falsities cannot reach to the heavens. But yet when evils and falsities are multiplied beyond the degrees of opposition, and thus beyond just measure, the heavens are infested, and unless the Lord then protects the heavens, which is affected by a more powerful influx from himself, violence is offered to the heavens, and when this has come to its height, he then executes the last judgment, and thus they are liberated. Hence it is that it follows in this chapter: Exult over her, O heaven, because God hath judged your judgment upon her. Revelation 18:20. And in the following chapter, Revelation 19:1-9, and in Jeremiah. Then shall the heavens and the earth and all that is in them sing over Babel, when the wasters shall come upon her. Wasters.
Wasters.
Wasters. Wasters. Wasters are those who make Babel like waste. Wasteland. Wasters shall come upon her. Jeremiah 51:46. Verse 6. Render unto her even as she hath rendered unto you. Double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she hath mingled. Mingled to her double signifies the just retribution and punishment of them after death, that then the evils and falsities by which they have seduced and destroyed others will return upon them according to their quantity and quality, which is called the law of retaliation. What is retaliation?
Retaliation.
Retaliation, like retribution, repayment. Retaliation. Render unto her even as she hath rendered unto you, signifies the just retribution and punishment of them after death. Double unto her double according to her works signifies that the evils by which they have seduced and destroyed others will return upon them according to their quantity and quality. In the cup which she hath mingled to her double signifies that the falsities will return in like manner. For by a cup or wine falsities are signified. Nearly the same things are said of Babel in the prophets. Recompense unto Babel according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her, for she hath acted insolently against Jehovah. Insolently.
Insolently.
Insolently. Like arrogantly. Haughtily. Insolently against Jehovah. Against the Holy One of Israel. Jeremiah 50:29. This is the vengeance of Jehovah. Take ye vengeance on Babel, as she hath done. Do unto her. Jeremiah 50:15. The daughter of Babel is devastated. Happy is he that rendereth to thee thy retribution which thou hast rendered unto us. Psalms 137:8. It is according to the sense of the letter that those whom they have seduced and destroyed will bring retribution on them. But it is according to the spiritual sense that they will not do this to them, but these do it to themselves, because every evil brings its own punishment with itself. This is similar to what is said frequently in the word that God will bring retribution and vengeance for injustices and injuries done to himself. Injuries.
Injuries.
Injuries. For injustices and injuries done to himself, and from anger and wrath will destroy them. When yet the evils themselves which they have committed against God do this, thus they do it to themselves. For this is the law of retaliation, which draws its very origin from this divine law. All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Matthew 7:12, Luke 6:31. This law in heaven is the law of mutual love or charity, from which it becomes the opposite in hell, which is that to every one it is done as he had done to another. Not that they who are in heaven do this, but that they do it to themselves. For the retribution of retaliation is from opposition. Sorry, what? Opposition to that law of life in heaven, as if inscribed on their evils. By double is signified much according to quantity and quality in this passage also. Let my persecutors be ashamed, bring upon them the day of evil, and break them with the double breaking. Jeremiah 17:18. Also much according to the quantity and quality of their turning away from evils in these. Comfort ye my people, because her warfare is fulfilled, and her iniquity is expiated. Expiated. What's this?
Expiated.
Expiated. It's like redeemed. Atoned. Expiated. And her iniquity is expiated, for she hath received from the hand of Jehovah double. Isaiah 41:2. Return to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. This day I announce, I will recompense unto thee double. Zechariah 9:12. For your shame ye shall have double, and in the land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. Isaiah 61:7. Maybe any comments? Verse 7. As much as she hath glorified herself and lived luxuriously, so much torment and mourning give her
What is this?
It's the book Apocalypse Revealed by Manuel Swedenborg. It's about spiritual meaning of the book of Revelation of the Bible.
Okay.
It's about what is going on right now.
Nice. Who's Emmanuel Swedenborg? Who's that?
Manuel Swedenborg is a genius and he is a scientist and he has third highest IQ in history. His IQ is 206. That because his books are very smart and wise. And a lot of great people were influenced by books of Swedenborg. Actually, and he wrote only about spiritual meaning of the Bible. He didn't write about literal meaning of the Bible, but only about spiritual meaning, like this. And we read verse by verse here.
No, so it says that he rejects the concept of salvation through faith alone. He doesn't believe in sola fide.
Yeah, because salvation and justification by faith alone is like a false teaching.
Okay.
You can see from this verse, and we can say, do we agree with his opinion or not, and why don't we agree? This is verse 7. I read verse by verse, but I was reading a lot today. Maybe you want to read, you can read next verse 7, if you can.
What verse? Verse 763?
Yeah, from this verse 7. It's
Verse
about
7?
verse...
About which verse? Verse 7 in which Isaiah 61?
No, from here, verse 7. It's verse 7
As
of
much
the
as she had
chapter.
glorified herself and lived luxuriously, so much torment and mourning giver signifies that in the degree of their elation of heart from dominion and according to their exaltation,
Exaltation, yeah.
exaltation of mind and
Exaltation.
body from riches they have after that eternal grief from being cast out and derided and from want and misery by as much as she had glorified herself is signified in the degree according to their elation of heart from dominion, for they glorified themselves from this by as much as she had lived luxuriously is signified in a degree of their exhalation of mind and body in an account of riches and delights and pleasure the reform as above. Okay.
By giving her torment. Go on.
And by giving her torment is signified eternal grief at being cast down from dominion, and then derision, their torment after death is from no other source, and by giving her mourning is signified eternal grief from want and misery. Their mourning after death is from these. The delight of the love of having dominion from the love of self over all that belongs to the Lord, which are all the things of heaven and the church is turned after death into such torment, and the pleasantness of the love of filling the mind and body with delights derived from opulence with those who are in the aforesaid
I would.
law of having
I would. What is a foresight? A foresight love.
foresaid.
It's like
Aforesaid.
like said above. Yeah. Said above. Okay.
Yeah. Having
Mm.
dominion is turned into such mourning for the delights and pleasantness proceeding from the loves to make the life of everyone. Wherefore, when these are turned into the opposites, there arise torment and mourning. These are the retire retributions and punishments which are meant in the word by the torments in hell, and thence hatred against the Lord and against all things of heaven and the church is meant by the fire there. Similar things are said of Babel in the prophets, as I will render unto Babel all the evil which they have done in Zion before your eyes. Jeremiah 51:24. The waster shall the waster shall come upon Babel, for God of retributions, um, God recompensing will recompense they Jeremiah 51:55 to 56. Thy magnificence is brought down into hell, the worm is spread under thee, torment which is eternal grief. Thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend the heavens, and I will exalt my throne above stars of God, and I will come like the Most High. Nevertheless, thou shalt be brought down to hell. They that They that see thee shall say, Is this the man that shook the earth, uh, that made the kingdoms tremble? This is out of Lucifer, who there is Babel, as is manifest from Isaiah 14:4 and 22. For she said in her heart, I sit a queen, and am not a widow, and shall not see mourning, signifies that they have these things because from elation of heart, account of dominion, and exaltation of mind on account of riches, they are in the trust and confidence that they will have dominion perpetually and will protect themselves, and that they can never be deprived of these things. To say in their heart signifies to be in assurance from elation of heart over dominion, also to be in confidence from exaltation of mind over riches. I said a queen signifies that they will have dominion here per perpetually, because I shall not see mourning follows. I'm not a widow signifies that they will protect themselves. By a widow is signified one who is without protection, because without a man it is said a queen and a widow, and not a king and man, because Babylon as a church is meant, and I shall not see mourning signifies that they can never be deprived of those two things, that they have mourning. Therefore,
They're from
therefrom,
the the their
therefrom,
yeah they. Mhm.
therefrom, after death may be seen just above. Very similar things are said of Babel in Isaiah. Thou shalt no more call thyself the mistress of kingdoms. Thou hast said in thy heart, I shall be mistress forever, saying in thy heart, I am, and there is no one else like me. I shall not sit a widow, nor shall I know bereavement, but these two things shall come unto thee in one day, bereavement and widowhood. They shall come upon thee for multitude of thy sorceries, and the greatness of thy many enchantments. Thou hast trusted in wickedness, and thou hast said, None, none seek me. Thy wisdom hath seduced thee, when thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and there is no one else like me. Therefore, devastation shall come upon thee suddenly. Isaiah 47:5, 7, 8 to 11. By a widow in the word is meant one who is without protection, for by a widow in the spiritual sense is signified one who is in good and not in truth. For by a man is signified truth, and by his wife good. Hence, by a widow, good without truth is signified, and good without truth is without protection. For truth protects good. This is signified by widow when mentioned in the word, as Isaiah 9:14 to 15 and 17, and 1 to 2, and Jeremiah 22:3. 41 to 10 and 11 Lamentations, 5 to 3 Ezekiel. Okay, so verse 8, for this in one day shall. Okay, you want to go?
Yeah, we read verse by verse. Next verse. It's my turn. Maybe any comments about previous verse? Would you agree with his point of view? Maybe before we read next.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, verse 8. For this in one day shall her plagues come. Death and mourning and famine signifies that on this account, at the time of the last judgment, the punishment of the evils which they have done will return upon them, which are death, which is infernal life, and inward grief from being cast down from dominion, mourning, which is internal grief from want and misery in place of opulence, and famine, which is the deprivation, how to pronounce this?
Oh, deprivation, I think.
Deprivation.
Deprivation.
1 second. Deprivation.
Oh, 1 second.
Deprivation.
Deprivation
Deprivation.
of the understanding is the deprivation of the understanding of all truth. But for this is meant because she said in her heart, I sit a queen, and am not a widow, and shall not see mourning, concerning which just above. By in one day the time of the last judgment is signified, which is also called the day of judgment. By plagues are signified the punishments of the evils which they did in the world, which will then return upon them. By death is signified infernal life and inward grief from being cast down from dominion, which is called torment above, concerning which death something will be said presently. By mourning is signified internal grief from want and misery in place of opulence, as also above. By famine, the deprivation of the understanding of all truth is signified. Into these three plagues of punishments, those of that religious persuasion come, who have had dominion from the love of self, and with no love of uses except for the sake of self. These are also atheists in heart. Signify they attribute all things to their own prudence and to nature. The rest from that nation, who are such, but do not think interiorly in themselves, are adulterous. It may be seen above that the deprivation of the understanding of all truth is meant by the plague of punishment which is called famine. Every man indeed, as long as he lives in the world, has rationality, that is, the faculty of understanding truth. This faculty remains with every man after death. Still they who have imbued falsities of religion in the world, from the love of self and the pride of their own intelligence after death are not willing to understand truth. And not to be willing is as it were not to be able. This inability from unwillingness is with all such, and is increased from this, that from the delight of the lust of falsity, for the sake of dominion, they continually imbue new confirming falsities, and thus become as to the understanding mere falsities, and remain so to eternity. Similar things are meant by these words concerning Babel in Jeremiah. Your mother is greatly ashamed. She that bare you as is suffused. What is it? Suffused? Suffused with shame.
Suffused.
Suffused. Like filled. Suffused with shame. Behold, the end shall be a wilderness, dryness, and a desert. From the anger of Jehovah it shall not be inhabited, but a total desolation. Everyone that passeth by Babylon shall be astonished, and shall hiss over all her plagues. Jeremiah 50:11-13. And she shall be burnt up in fire, for strong as the Lord God who judgeth her signifies that they will be hatreds against the Lord and against his heaven and church, because they then see that the Lord alone has dominion, and reigns over all things in the heavens and on earth, and not at all any man from himself. By fire with which she will be burnt up is signified hatred against the Lord, and against his heaven and the church of which see below. By for strong is the Lord that judgeth her, is signified that they see them then, that is in the spiritual world, that is in the spiritual world into which they come after death, that the Lord alone has dominion and reigns over all things in the heavens and on earth, and not at all any man from himself. This is signified by strong is the Lord God that judgeth her, because the Lord does not judge anyone to hell, but they themselves. For when they feel the angelic fear concerning the Lord flowing down of heaven, they flee away and cast themselves into hell, as may be evident from the things that were shown above. That by fire is signified love in both senses. Celestial love, which is love to the Lord, and infernal love, which is the love of self, may be seen above. That infernal fire is hatred, is because the love of self hates. For all who are in that love burn with anger according to the degree of it, and are inflamed with hatred and revenge. Revenge and revenge against those who oppose, and they who are of Babylon against those that deny that they are to be worshipped and adored as sanctities. When therefore they hear that the Lord alone is worshipped and adored in heaven, and that to worship any man in place of the Lord is profane, adoration of the Lord becomes in them hatred against him, and the adulteration of the word, to the end that they may be worshipped, becomes profane. This, therefore, is what is signified by Babylon shall be burnt up with fire. It may be seen above that being burned up with fire is the punishment of the profanation of what is holy. The like is meant by these words in Jeremiah. I am against thee, O Babel, the destroying mountain that destroys the whole earth. I will roll thee down from the rocks, and will give thee for a mountain of burning. The walls of Babel are utterly overturned, and her high gates are burnt up with fire. Jeremiah 51, 25, 58. Verse 9, Revelation 18:9. Maybe any comments? And the kings of the earth shall weep for her and wail over her, who have committed whoredom and lived luxuriously with her. When they see the smoke of her burning, signifies the more interior griefs of those who have been in high dominion and its delights by means of the falsified and adulterated truths of the word, which they made the holy things of the church, when they see them turned into profane things. In this and the following verse, the mourning of the kings of the earth is treated of by whom the highest in the order are meant, who are called magnates and primates. Primates.
What the fuck are you
Primates.
talking about?
I'm reading Apocalypse Revealed by Emanuel Swedenborg. It's about book of, spiritual meaning of the Book of Revelation. I read chapter 18 of Book of Revelation of the Bible. You can see on the stream. And okay. Magnates and primates. Primates. Yeah?
Primates.
Primates is like heads. Heads. Chief, like this. Primates.
Primates.
It's like animals. Primates. From verses 11-16, the mourning of the merchants of the earth is treated of by whom are meant the lower ones in the order, who are called monks. And from verses 17-19, the mourning of the shipmasters and the sailors is treated of by whom those are meant that contribute, who are called the laity. Here the kings of the earth are now treated of by whom the highest in the order are signified. That by kings are not meant kings, but those who are in truth from good, and in the opposite sense in falsities from evil, may be seen above. Here therefore by the kings of the earth who committed whoredom and lived luxuriously with the harlot are signified those who are in dominion and its delights through the truth of the word falsified and adulterated, especially through that truth falsified and adulterated by them, which the Lord said to Peter, respecting which something follows, that to commit whoredom signifies to falsify and adulterate the truth of the word, may be seen, and that to be luxuriously, how to pronounce, luxuriously,
Luxuriously.
luxuriously,
Luxuriously.
And that to live luxuriously signifies to enjoy the delights of dominion, and at the same time of opulence. It's like luxuriance too. Luxuriance, riches, opulence. By their weeping and wailing their interior griefs are signified. It is said to weep and wail over, because to weep over is from grief at being cast down from dominion, and to wail over is from grief at the deprivation of opulence. And because the griefs of these are more interior than those of the merchants of the earth, it is therefore said of the kings of the earth, by whom are meant the higher ones in the order, that they weep and wail over, and of the merchants of the earth, by whom the lower ones of the order are meant. It is said that they wept and mourned. By seeing the smoke of her burning is signified when they see the falsities of their religious persuasion, which are the falsified and adulterated truth of the word, turned into profane things. By smoke those falsities are signified, and by burning is signified what is profane. From these things, and because we can say that smoke is like an effect, but burning is like a cause. Because burning is signified what is profane, but by smoke, those falsities are signified in this sense. From these things and from those which are explained above, it is manifest that by the kings of the earth, who have committed whoredom and lived luxuriously with her, shall weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. Are signified the more interior griefs of those who were in higher dominion and its delights through the truth of the word, falsified and adulterated, when they see them turned into what is profane. Something shall here be said concerning the truth which the Lord said to Peter respecting the keys of the kingdom of the heavens, and respecting the authority to bind and loose. Matthew 16, 15, 20. They say that authority was given to Peter, and that it has been transferred to them as his successors, and that the Lord thus left to Peter and after him to them all his authority, and that the Lord thus left to Peter and after him to them all his authority, and that he should act as his vicar on earth. Vicar on earth. But still it is plainly manifest from the Lord's words themselves that he did not give the least of authority to Peter, for the Lord says, "Upon this rock I will build my church." By a rock the Lord is signified as to his divine truth. And the divine truth, which is the rock, is what Peter confessed before the Lord said those words, which is this. Jesus said to the disciples, "But who say ye that I am?" Simon Peter answering said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." Matthew 16, 15, 18. This is the truth upon which the Lord builds his church, and Peter then represented that truth, from which it is manifest that the confession of the Lord that he is the Son of the living God, who has power over heaven and earth, Matthew 28:18, is that upon which the Lord builds his church, and thus upon himself, and not upon Peter. Yeah, they think that Jesus was talking about flesh like this. But we should understand confession, like teaching and doctrine. from which it is manifest. Because Peter said that, and it means that the Lord builds his church upon that confession and does upon himself. Is once again, Peter said that Jesus is the Son of the living God, who has power over heaven and earth. Peter said, Simon Peter answered, once again, Jesus said to the disciples, "But who say ye that I am?" Simon Peter answered, Simon Peter answering said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." The Christ, the Son of the living God. It means this is the truth upon which the Lord builds his church, and Peter then represented that truth, from which it is manifest that the confession of the Lord that he is the Son of the living God, who has power over heaven and earth. Matthew 28:18. And who said that? Matthew 28:18. Maybe we can see Matthew 28:18. Matthew 28:18. Matthew 28:18. What is going on? Matthew 28:18. And then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." These are words of Jesus. And Peter said that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God, and Jesus said that he is the Son of the living God who has power over heaven and earth. No, Jesus said that he has power over heaven and earth, but Peter said that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God. But Jesus says, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." Is that upon which the Lord, like confession, that the confession of the Lord that he is the Son of the living God who has power over heaven and earth, is that upon which the Lord builds his church. Like the Lord builds his church on that confession, and thus upon himself, and not upon Peter, and thus upon himself, like Jesus builds his church upon himself, but not upon Peter. It is known in the church that the Lord is meant by rock. I once spoke with the Babylonian nation in the spiritual world concerning the keys given to Peter, whether they believe that authority over heaven and hell was transferred by the Lord to him, which, as it was the head of the religion, they vehemently like strongly, categorically, vehemently insisted upon, saying that there was no doubt of it, because it is manifestly said. But to the inquiry whether they knew that in everything in the world there is a spiritual sense, which is the sense of the word in heaven, they said at first that they did not know it, but afterwards they said they would inquire. And when they inquired, they were instructed that there is a spiritual sense in each thing of the word, which differs, which differs from the sense of the letter as spiritual from natural. And they were further instructed that no person named in the word is named in heaven, but that instead something spiritual is there understood. They were informed at length that for Peter in the word, the truth of the church from good is meant, and the same by the rock, which is mentioned together with Peter, and that it may thereby be known that not any authority was given to Peter, but to truth from good. For all authority in the heavens belongs to truth from good.
My God.
What is of good by truth?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm reading the book you can see on the stream. This is the topic of, well, and if you want to read, you can read next verse in your turn.
God, goodbye, truth as well.
It's about, this book is Apocalypse Revealed by Manuel Swedenborg. It's about spiritual meaning of the book of Revelation of the Bible. And as all good and all truth are from the Lord and nothing from man, that all authority belongs to the Lord. On hearing this, being indignant, what was this?
Indignant.
Like angry, indignant. They said that they wished to know whether there is that spiritual sense in those words. Whereupon the word, which is whereupon?
Whereupon.
Whereupon. Okay. It's like then. Whereupon the word which is in heaven was given to them, in which whereupon the word which is in heaven was given to them, in which word there is not the natural sense, but the spiritual, because it is for the angels who are spiritual. And when they read it, they saw manifestly that Peter was not mentioned there, but instead of him, truth from good, which is from the Lord. On seeing this, they rejected it from anger, and would almost have torn it in pieces with their teeth, unless at that moment it had been taken away from them. They were thence convinced, although they were not willing to be convinced, that to the Lord alone that authority belongs, and not in the least of any man, because it is divine authority. Verse 10. And standing afar off for the fear of your torment, saying, Woe, woe, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, signifies their fear of punishments. and then grievous lamentation. That this religious persuasion, so fortified, could be so suddenly and completely overturned, and that they could perish. To stand afar off for the fear of torment signifies a state as yet remote from the state of those who are in condemnation, because they are in fear of torment, as will be explained in what follows. Woe, woe signifies grievous lamentation. That woe signifies lamentation over calamity, unhappiness, and condemnation may be seen above. Hence, woe, woe signifies grievous lamentation. Woe, like woe to you.
Woe.
Woe, woe, woe. Hence, woe, woe signifies grievous lamentation. By the great city Babylon, that religious persuasion is signified. Here as above, Babylon as a woman or harlot, because her torment is spoken of. By mighty city signified the religious persuasion so fortified. By in 1 hour thy judgment come signified that it could be so suddenly overturned, and that they could perish. In 1 hour, in 1 hour signifies so suddenly, and by judgment is signified its overthrow and the destruction of those who committed whoredom and lived luxuriously with the harlot, who are here treated of, that they perished by the last judgment may be seen in the small work on the last judgment and Babylon destroyed, published at London 1758. These things are said respecting and destruction. These things are said respecting the destruction. The reason that they stood afar off for fear of your torment signifies a state as yet remote from the state of those who are in condemnation. Because in fear of the torment is because by afar off is not meant remoteness of space, but remoteness of state. When one is in fear of punishment, for as long as a man is in a state of fear, he sees ways and laments. Sees ways and laments.
Ways.
Ways. Like, in this sense, ways like maybe ponder. He sees ways and laments. What is the meaning? Ways. It's like figurative language. He sees ways and laments. Like ways in his mind. He sees ways and laments. Remoteness of state. Ways like ponders, in this sense. Ponder, yeah. The remoteness of state, which is remoteness in the spiritual sense, is also signified by afar off, elsewhere in the word as in these passages. Hear ye that are afar off, that I will do, and ye that are near know my might. Isaiah 33:13. Am I God that is near, and not a God afar off? Jeremiah 23:23. He found grace in the wilderness. Israel said, Jehovah had appeared unto me from afar. Jeremiah 31:2-3. Bring my sons from afar, Isaiah 43:6. Hear ye people from afar. Isaiah 49:1-2. Peoples and nations that come from a land afar off. Isaiah 5:26. Jeremiah 4:16. Jeremiah 6:15. Zechariah 6:15. Besides elsewhere, as the three latter numbers above, where by nations and peoples from afar are meant those who more remote from the truths and goods of the church. In common speech, also relatives are said to be near, and those more remote in relationship are said to be distant. That religious persuasion is called a mighty city because it had fortified itself strongly. For it had fortified itself not only by the multitude of the nations and peoples who acknowledge it, but by many other things also, as by a great number of monasteries, and by the armies of monks there. This is said because they call the ministry the military service, by possessions of wealth without any measure of ITD.
Satiety.
Satiety, like fullness, like when when our stomachs are filled.
Satiation.
Satiation, satiety and satiation. Satiation, satiety. Measure or satiety also by the tribunal of the Inquisition. Besides by treats and terrors, besides by threats, and terrors, especially of purgatory.
Purgatory.
Purgatory. Like it's about purification. Purgatory. Especially of purgatory, into which everyone is said to come. By the extinction of the light of the gospel, and thence blindness in spiritual things, which is affected by prohibitions and inhibitions of the region of the word. Prohibitions.
Prohibitions.
Like ban. Prohibitions, but what is inhibitions?
Inhibitions.
It's like prohibition too. Obstruction. Inhibitions. Prohibitions and inhibitions of the region of the word by masses spoken in a language unknown to the common people, by various external sanctities, by impression, the worship of the dead and of images upon the common people, who are kept in ignorance concerning God, and by various splendid things in externals, that by these things they may be in a corporeal faith concerning the sanctity of all the things in that religious persuasion. What is corporeal? Corporeal.
Corporeal.
It's like physical, bodily. Corporeal faith concerns the sanctity of all the things in that religious persuasion. Hence it is that it is altogether unknown what lies hidden within that religious persuasion, when yet it is all together as described above in these words. The woman was arrived in purple and scarlet, and inwrought with gold and precious stone and pearl, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and uncleanness of her whoredom. Revelation 17:4. But howsoever much Babylon had so fortified herself, and in like manner in the spiritual world see below, till she was altogether destroyed at the day of the last judgment. Of her devastation it is thus prophesied in Jeremiah. If Babel should ascend to heaven, and if she should fortify the height of her strength from me, shall the wasters come. Jeremiah 51:53. The mighty men of Babel sit in their fortifications. Her power is given to oblivion. They have set her fortifications on fire. Oblivion.
Oblivion.
Like forgetfulness. Oblivion. Her bars are broken. The city is taken from its extremity. The wall also of Babel is fallen. Jeremiah 51:30, 31:44. Suddenly, had Babel fallen and is broken down, howl over her, take balm for her grief, howl like eagle.
Howl.
No, it's like crime. Howl,
Howl.
howl. Howl over her, take balm for her grief. What is balm?
Balm.
Balm, like balsam. Oil.
Balsam.
Balsam. Balsam. Balm for her grief. Peradventure. She may be healed. Peradventure. What is this?
Peradventure.
Peradventure is like mayhap. Peradventure. Peradventure. She may be healed. Jeremiah 51:8. Any comments maybe? Verse 11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, because no one buyeth the merchandise anymore. Signifies the lower ones in the order who minister and make gain by holy things hear the grief that after the destruction of Babylon, the religious things are not acknowledged as holy, but as the goods and truth of the word. And then so the church all adulterated and profane, and thus that they can no longer make profit by them as before. By the merchants are meant the lesser in the order of their ecclesiastical hierarchy, because by the kings of the earth spoken of before are meant the higher ones in that order see above. Thus by the merchants of the earth are meant those that minister and make gain by holy things. By their weeping and mourning are signified their griefs, as also above. By their merchandise are signified the holy or religious things by which they may gain or profit. By not buying them anymore, is signified not to wish to have them, because they are not holy, but are the goods and truths of the word, and thence of the church adulterated and profaned, that to buy is to procure for oneself. Concerning this it is written in Jeremiah, O Babel, that dwellest upon many waters, great in treasures, thy end is come, the measure of thy gain. Jeremiah 51:13. Any comments, maybe? Verse 12. I don't sure. Should I read it? Mhm. It's a big verse, maybe. Yeah, it's a big. Mhm. Okay, I think I'll read this verse in the next time. Goodbye.